We're joined now live by CTV's Queen's Park Bureau Chief, Siobhan Morris. Siobhan.
Well, the NDP leader says some of her worst fears about the Ontario Place redevelopment are laid bare in this report. As for the Auditor General, she's not ready to say at this point whether or not Ontarians are getting a good value for their money.
Delivering her first annual report as Auditor General, Shelley Spence revealed the cost of redeveloping Ontario Place has exploded. The government now on the hook for at least $2.2 billion. A sum 5 times higher than it was 5 years ago. A lot of that's driven by the decision to move the Science Centre to the waterfront. The bill for the relocation
has increased nearly $400 million from the March 2023 business case.
A new build now more expensive than fixing the site at Don Mills in Eglinton. But Spence isn't ready to say Ontarians are getting a bad deal.
We'd really have to look at the Science Centre when it's done and see how it's operating and see how many people are going there.
Spence says the process that landed on Therme Canada to develop the site wasn't fair, transparent, or accountable to everyone involved. Officials in the Premier's office and at Infrastructure Ontario spoke to some bidders, going against their own rules.
We don't know if they helped them with their bids and what was exchanged because it wasn't documented.
I'll let the Auditor General characterize it as she sees fit.
With the minister in charge off sick, the head of Infrastructure Ontario insists the Ontario Place bill is just preliminary.
We continue to work with both the Science Centre and the Ministry of Infrastructure to figure out what those final costs are going to be.
While Spence says her team found no evidence of influence from the Premier in the decision-making process, Liberals want to know what Doug Ford has to gain.
By spending an unknown amount of taxpayer money to let a foreign-owned company, whose ownership is not clear, build a water park on one of Canada's most beautiful lakes.
The auditor finds the province's opioid strategy is woefully out of date. It's lacked proper data tracking, leadership, and goals. Legislation has just passed to close most of the province's supervised drug consumption sites in favor of treatment-focused heart hubs.
Swapping a dirty needle for a clean one is not a pathway out and does not give people hope, and that's what we need to provide.
The report finds that while the Ministry of Health has flagged that shutdowns could mean more deaths, public drug use, and pressure on ERs, it has not come up with a plan to mitigate those risks.
So are you suggesting, as we see rising opioid use in our neighborhoods, in our communities, across Canada, that we should not be acting and responding to that? I vehemently oppose and disagree with you.
The NDP leader thinks the pages and pages of audit tell the story of a government that rams through whatever it wants.
With no consideration for the rules, for accountability, for transparency, and frankly, for what the data and the science is telling them.
The government sees it another way.
I say it speaks to our interest and our motivation to get things done.
The Auditor General says no government has spent as much as this one has on advertising, more than $103 million last year. But she says more than 60% of it does more to boost the progressive Conservatives than share information about services. One ad in particular, that It's Happening Here ad you've seen during the Super Bowl, NFL games, it cost more than almost $19 million. Reporting live from Queen's Park, I'm Siobhan Morris.